Thanks for coming. Those are some segments that were, sort of in the film. We have DVDs of the film available at our booth, which is 1020 over here on the other side. And I'm very excited to be here with all these amazing people who contributed to the film. And we thought we'd begin by maybe opening it up with Barbara, and maybe asking Barbara, I was going to ask her maybe, what is conscious evolution? What's the potential right now for a positive change that could happen quickly enough when we see all of these negative, environmental factors and social and economic factors? Do you think we can make this change in the time that's available?
Is it on here? Maybe this one?
Testing.
I can go up here.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I think
Hello?
not only we can make it,
it's not working.
The crisis has matured just enough. Evidently, it's what it took to awaken enough people to the potentiality of self and social and scientific evolution as a conscious choice. And I think when we look back on this period, maybe even 5 or 10 years from now, we'll see it as the greatest wake-up call that the human species has ever had, and we needed it. Because for all the religions in the world, all the moral
Should we ask each one of them a
ideologies
question?
in the world, it did not do it. And it looks like the only thing that would do it is what's actually happening. Nature
Maybe ask
had to
Barlow
reach the
something
point
similar
where
about
we
the
suddenly
momentum.
became aware we could destroy our own species by our own action. No species has ever known that. Millions of species were extinct before we got here. We're the first species to know we could render ourselves extinct by our own action, and therefore change and transform ourselves. And I think that the ultimate power of ourselves as a co-evolutionary, co-creative species is what's being born here. I think our crisis is a birth of a co-creative universal humanity. I think there are no guarantees of any birth, but certainly not of this birth. But if you know that the crisis is leading toward a birth of this kind of new civilization on this earth,
Tiokasin next, Barlow, and then you, and then you can
beyond,
and you can open it up.
Then I'm gonna open it up.
We'll have the energy to meet the crisis with the hope that a woman has when she's giving birth to a child. It's painful, but it's great. Thank you.
Woohoo!
So I'm going to continue. I'll ask our panel here one question each, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Tiokasin, you talked in the film, you talk about this salvation point mentality as a sort of problem of the modern mind, that we're kind of set on some kind of future salvation through technology or through some redemptive force. And what can you kind of explain that a little bit more, and then sort of tell us what you think a counteractive attitude would be.
Hello everybody, how are you? Good, thank you. It's a very deep question that deserves a deep, respectful answer, and I'll do my best to answer Daniel's question. When we think about savior mentality in my language, it doesn't exist, because you cannot think of something outside of you coming to save you. In other words, giving away your power to an entity as we make up in our minds, or even a system that can come and save you, like voting for a system, because we know as Native Americans that no matter what or who is put into office, hasn't changed our situation where we are. We're still left out of the mainstream, and even that alternative or progressive mindset. This is a perfect example of what's going on here. But when we talk about owning, we can't even do that because we don't have a concept of domination either. So we can't say some God up there or some devil down there, we're worried about either going to heaven or to hell. We're not even dealing with what's going on right here. And it's just a different philosophy about dealing with what you can do. Your body is in the soul, not the soul separate in the body, separate from, and waiting for someone else. And so you put energy into words like belief or believe or hope, and it's just a wishing well, and nothing ever comes out of it. So you go back to the same system, creating that problem that you're voting for. So as Native people, we know that it's up to Mother Earth. And as we live with Mother Earth, then you know that all that system that was created for something outside of you iconically to come and save you can't exist. It won't. When you turn off all the lights, the voting machines, the radio, the TVs, everything, it's really going to be up to you. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's going to come down to where you're going to have to look at responsibility rather than your right to choose. Because we don't own anything, we don't even have ownership. You can't have the right to anything unless you know what responsibility is to you. So this is what we say is savior mentality. We can't have that. It's us. We can't save Earth, we can't save our species. It's not that. We already know how. If we become community, we get rid of human error, which is really about only species that exist on Earth is the human species, which supposedly is the most intelligent form of life on Earth. But we call everything else inanimate. So we have to recognize that when we see, if we see that everything is alive, then we know that there is no such thing as savior mentality. And so when we have savior salvation point mentalities, that means there's something outside of there to save you. If only you believe in it. It's giving away your religion. So I hope that's an explanation, and thanks for listening to me.
Hi, John. In the clip that we showed was an interview that Barlow and I did together at Burning Man. He was talking about how there was an expectation in the late 60s of this kind of apocalypse and transformation. And, you know, John worked with the Grateful Dead for many years and has now been working as an advocate for the Electronic Freedom Foundation.
Algae systems?
Yeah, and so anyway, what I wanted to ask him was about kind of whether he perceives a kind of cultural evolution from the 60s to today, if he sees that there's any kind of new movement in culture or any transformation in how, you know, that points towards this possibility for a rapid transformation in society as we look at all these crises like the ecological crisis and the financial crisis.
Daniel, I like that question, but I don't feel like answering it. Actually, I want to riff on what this gentleman just said.
Oh, he's got to do something.
For a long time, and you know what most people who haven't been in the West don't know is that cowboys and Indians have a lot more in common than either have. What he just said is about personal responsibility, and I think that there is a way in recognizing personal responsibility in its positive understanding that will get us away from the sanctimony and the guilt and the sense of obligation, which is exactly the opposite of responsibility, that's afflicted all of these movements around trying to save us from ourselves for the last 40 or 50 years. It ought to be fun to save the world, and in fact it is. It's just that somebody is telling you that it can't be fun because it always has to involve this great self-sacrifice, usually on the part of somebody else besides yourself, and you're willing to inflict that upon them for the good of humanity. You gotta get over that. It is fun to be alive, and it will be fun to go on being alive. And it's not about making do with less, it's about figuring out a way to have more so that it costs the planet less. We can do this.